So new round of SDH AM. John, here, you there. Thanks for dropping by, as you always do. It's a Monday, which means it is a reaction Monday, and we can pretty much react to whatever you want. But I figured that most of the reaction is going to be having to do with what happened at Mercedes-Benz on the weekend, as we kind of get you ready for what's going to be happening at Mercedes-Benz Stadium tomorrow with the USMNT after what happened with the matchup against Belgium, heading into the matchup against Portugal, and then you'll have two more friendlies before you get into the cup the world is chasing after. Bart Keeler, SoccerForUSPod, is going to be joining us at 10 o'clock, and we'll be going over starting 11s and formations. We've got a lot of sound to get into. Probably that's going to be what we get into in the 9:30 half hour. Abe Gordon's set to join us in a handful of minutes, and we'll go over what Abe wants to talk about, considering that we're coming out of an international break by the next time we talk to him, and Atlanta United will have played Columbus. So got Atlanta United to kind of get into and ease into as the week goes along. Abe can do that if he wants, coming out of the window and heading into that matchup with Columbus, unless he wants to join us on Friday morning and talk about it then. He can talk about USMNT if he wants. You guys can talk about USMNT if you want. You can talk about whatever else is on the table if you want. So it's Abe, a lot of sound, Matt Turner, Christian Pulisic, Timothy Weah, Mauricio Pochettino. Second half hour. Bart coming in, discussing the ins and outs with Bart, and we do have to get into the Tim Ream penalty call and go through that particular process with Bart. Then in the final half hour, get you ready for everything else going on today. It looks like Spurs might be, I said it looks like and might be, locking in Roberto De Zerbi. It has gone from this morning to the idea of, well, we're talking to his camp. And then you go from there to, okay, we've talked to his camp and we're, leaning into the notion that he's probably going to be a part of the Spurs' future. Well, but he didn't want to be a part of the Spurs' future if it meant he had to be there for the last handful of matches this season until he changed his mind. And it looks like he might be part of the Spurs' present in addition to the future. Looks like he and his camp might have had a boatload of money waved underneath them or just pushed to the center of the table. Hey, dude, what's it going to take? Slide the money to the center of the table. Oh, okay, yeah, that'll do it. So it looks like it might be De Zerbi with a boatload of cash, allegedly, pushed to the center of the table. Hey, can you get us out of the relegation scrap? You get a bonus if you get us out of the relegation scrap, and then we'll go from there. So we'll look at that this morning. That seems to have been drifting in and out. And we'll catch up with the words of our friend Ben Jacobs, who is set to join us tomorrow at 9:30. And I wanted to talk to Ben, obviously, since he is here on this particular side of the Atlantic, about what he's seen from the USMNT. Talk to him about the Three Lions and the England national team and Tommy Tuchel. But now we've got this whole thing with De Zerbi added in. So it might be busy with Ben tomorrow if we can catch up with him long enough. Set to join us at 9:30 tomorrow morning, Ben Jacobs from Talk Sport et al. Busy week on a bunch of different fronts for us, by the way. So tomorrow, Ben Jacobs set to join us. KCD set to join us. We'll probably talk NWSL, whatever else is on her mind. Marty Jellamy, the head coach for the Unified team, is set to join us at 10:30 tomorrow. Then on Wednesday, it looks like it's going to be Kiara Crinion, the women's national U17 head coach. So she's set to join us. We're supposed to catch up with her tomorrow. That'll run in the end of the show on Wednesday. Rob Valentino set to join us on Thursday morning batting leadoff. We'll catch up with Rob, find out what it's like for him to wear the stars and stripes. And so we'll catch up with Rob on Thursday in addition to Nino and Nico. And then Friday, get you ready for everything with Atlanta United and Columbus. Catch up with our friend Chris Dorn to see if we can catch up with him on Friday at match day -1, or if we can catch up with him Thursday and it's just guests aplenty. We're also efforting our friend Jen Hildreth, and we'll find out what's going on with her and her universe and the book and all the things and all that. So that's the week. We haven't even gotten to an opening kickoff yet, so we might as well just be Abe. Abe will just be opening kickoff. So we're trying to get everybody locked into what's going on this week, and with all the guests that we have and everything. And I didn't even get to talk about Moneyball and the USL over the weekend. So you're officially opening kickoff. Congratulations.
Yeah, how did this even start? What was my original hey, you should join at time? Did it start at 9:20 and then I went Tom Coughlin and was at 9:15? And then I think in my head, it was like, I'm supposed to be joining at 9:15, and I continued, and now I'm just here at 9:10. So
yeah,
I can go back to like 9:15 or 9:20 if it makes it easier for you.
No, it's fine because, it's a Monday and we get to have conversations and we get to talk about whatever. No, it's just I was explaining everything that we got going on this week. And it's like, okay, we're jammed with guests, and here's the rundown of the guests we have. And then by the time I've talked through my rundown of the week, you pop up. And I'm not complaining by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just saying that we're stacked, and then you showed up. And so opening kickoff is going to be what happened in the USL on the weekend, and that'll be after you. And then we'll get into USMNT with Bart at 10 o'clock, and then DeZerbi and Spurs, and maybe they're hooking up, and they're going to catch up with each other 7 matches ahead of time. So that's kind of where we are. So.
Well, yeah. I will say this, as a producer, as a host, it's much happier times when you have so much that you're taking time to get through it and you have to fill, as opposed to if it were empty and you had to try and figure out what you want to fill the times with. So overbooked sometimes can be better than underbooked, especially a week like this.
Yeah, so we are definitely overbooked, but that's a good thing. I left it open when I was describing, obviously, your Monday visit. Where did you want to go first? We can talk about United getting ready for Columbus coming out of the international break. That's probably at the tail. Did you want to talk MNT? Did you watch MNT? What's on your mind?
Yeah, it's funny. I wasn't planning on kind of watching the game. I was going to follow it from afar and just by use of social media. And I actually – the run club, we were having a little kind of social on Saturday afternoon. And so we went out to Morty's Meat Supply and the barn out in Dunwoody. And just out of nowhere, they had a Michelob Ultra activation, and they have a whole big setup there anyways with an outdoor TV. And so, it was on there, and so kind of separate of the game. And we'll get to that in just a moment. It's just another example of how the city is taking a variety of places in each neighborhood and kind of making it a de facto go-to spot ahead of the actual World Cup. And obviously right where I was, the Villages, the shops in Dunwoody, right there is one. And so it was really cool and really unexpected to see Michelob Ultra there. They had a little game set up and you could register to win prizes, and they had the big screen outdoors. It was obviously a beautiful day Saturday. And so I got there right as the start of the second half, and I was like, hey, a little fight from the US, right? And 1-1, and you're feeling all right. And then obviously it fell apart quite badly in the second half. And so that's just a reminder that there are levels to this. And obviously it's a friendly. You're still trying to figure stuff out. You're not going to win any World Cup games giving up 5 goals. I think you certainly understand that. So it was certainly frustrating that at halftime, I think it was 1-1, and you start to feel like, all right, you're right there with Belgium and whatever. And then it falls apart there. So from that aspect, not great. For me personally, because one of the bigger questions I have about the U.S. men's national team, and no one really has a definitive answer. I don't know if Pochettino has a definitive answer. What are you doing up top? And a guy that I just feel has produced really in every opportunity with the men's national team. He did score again on Saturday, was Ajiman. And I know he's no longer here in MLS. He's gone across the river there. Mm-hmm. But I just feel like he's a guy that takes advantage of opportunities. There's been so many strikers that at different times have taken advantage of opportunities, whether going way back Ferreira and Pepe and some of the other Aronson and some of the other guys. I still am a big fan of Ajiman. And I know Balogun. It's just a very interesting question. I think you can kind of settle the back line to 4 out of 5 or 6 people. I think you can kind of settle the midfield out of 6 or 7, and these guys are going to be starters, and these guys are kind of probably going to come off the bench in moments. I have no idea what they're doing up top, so that's what's interesting to me coming out of these friendlies, and again midweek here against Portugal.
Yeah, and so what I've done is I've written down your thoughts, and so when Bart joins us at 10, I will see where he feels we are in the situation. But yeah, it was a great set piece, and obviously we get the highlights coming up, the 2 goals in a bit. But it was once again, and I think this is something that you can look at for the United States and go, okay, set pieces. Once again, you have a corner, and you end up with Weston McKennie losing his initial defender, cutting in front of the second guy who was right at the edge of the 6. Great little volley, getting it past Sene Lamans to make it 1-0. And you're sitting there going, okay, yeah, I see that, set pieces, the development is there, and you're finding those gaps, and you're getting that 1-0 lead. And then you end up giving up a goal right before the half. And you're like, okay, all of that momentum is there, and all of the activity with Atlanta. Wow, shows you where I am in that.
It
building.
Feels like an Atlanta United game, giving up a goal right before half and then going in 1-1. So you're pretty close.
Yeah, and so you end up with the early thoughts with the United States, where they're finding space and they're going long over the top, and you have Timothy Weah going down one side, and you have all of the speed working down the other side, and they were Belgium was on their heels a bit because of the speed that the United States had going over the top and down the wings, and they go away from it, or it was defended better by Belgium, so they couldn't quite have those kinds of opportunities. But yeah, right there before the half, you give up the goal once again off of a recycle, and it's 1-1, and then you're back to square, and then you end up with goal number 2, the PK, which we'll get into with Bart coming up in a bit. And I just heard your heavy sigh going through the microphone. And then obviously goals 4 and 5, and that's when the field kind of tilted at that point. I think that after that, the PK and the Onana goal at the top of the key, that was when the air just kind of came out of the building, and you could feel it, man. I mean, just when you're there for Atlanta United, when that energy just completely and totally exits gate 1 and 2. You felt the same thing after goals 2 and 3 for Belgium.
Yeah, there's always scoreline is one thing, and then play on the field is another, right? And sometimes they correlate, and sometimes we feel like they don't correlate. But when there's a gap, forget play, right? Because there can be a gap in play and you could be tied, or there could be a gap in play and you feel like you're one mishit or a guy slips, or you're one moment away, right? But when you get that gap on the scoreboard, it just feels like such a tough thing to overcome. And when it went from obviously 1 to 4, now you're just like, all right, there's no real path back, where obviously time is not on our side at this point either. And you can kind of feel it. I did want to ask you something that carried over from Atlanta United's game into the men's national game. And I really didn't get a good look at it, but I know you and I had kind of addressed it a little bit, the full-time report, the grass and the slipping. I didn't see much on social media that it was anywhere close to the issue it was for the MLS game. And that was something that we talked about, right, John? It was all a learning experience, the first competitive environment there for Atlanta United. And just based on social media reaction, they did something different because it just was not an issue really for either team at any moment.
No, it wasn't. And I don't know if it got from the idea of what you don't do instead of what you did do. And it's like, you end up with addition by subtraction, I guess, where you don't water as much, or you don't water in certain moments, or you don't water as much at the half. And it's literally, as we're sitting there and going, okay, it's a learning experience, and you've got all these matches to figure it out. But no, I think that it was probably addition by subtraction, where you didn't water as much and you paid more attention to the field after the match than you did in the middle. Maybe give it a little bit of TLC, but not as much maybe as was given with the Atlanta United match. No, slipping for me, I didn't see any, and it wasn't that big of a deal from what I could gather.
Yeah, and I think, look, that just, tip of the cap to all those involved to making the adjustments and not being stuck in this is what we're doing. Players need to adjust. They made the changes, and yeah, didn't seem to be an issue. Now we look, again, we'll look at the game differently, but we'll keep an eye on that for Portugal in what is that, 38 hours?
Well, I mean,
something like that.
Yeah, close to. I mean, it's
the tailgate starts in 38 hours. How about that?
No. If you're tailgating in 38 hours, you're in trouble because that's the 36. That's like that's after, man. At 38.
Oh, I can't do math. Time math is minutes per mile. That's all I can. I stick with that time math.
Yeah. So if you're there, let's see. If the match starts at 7:00 tomorrow night, that's 33 hours and 39 minutes from now as we're talking.
So the 38 hours is a post game celebration. Then.
Right. That's So 38 is post match. So you're looking at maybe like 29 or 30 before you start your pregame. But when it comes to coming back out the flip side, obviously, Mauricio Pochettino, he learned a lesson that when you have a team like Belgium, that you've got to have three at the back, you've got to have three center backs, and you've got to have speed to help you out on the wings. You can't go to a back four because they will burn you. And you got to see what Jeremy Doku could do. Literally, you light the fuse on Jeremy Doku. We've seen it in the Premier League with Manchester City, and he can get you in any 1v1 matchup on the left-hand side. And they kept feeding the hot guy. Literally, it's like NBA Jam, You get that bucket, and you just keep feeding it. He's on fire, and that's what Doku was in the second half at NBA Jam, man. He hit a three, and you just keep feeding him, and that's what happened in that second half.
Yeah, and we talk about adjustments. Like, that's something I'm really interested in, because while I have questions, I do wonder how close Poch feels he is to what the best 11 is, or what the best 10 is, or best 9 is. And are we still in a phase of evaluation, a phase of deciding what we're going to do, right? Match day 1 of the World Cup, or whatever our first group match is going to be. And so how much change do we see in the starting lineup today? And I know we got some more friendlies coming a little bit closer, not in Atlanta, a little bit closer to the World Cup. And so interested to see if this is still an evaluation phase, if we're going to go with a relatively similar starting 11 against Portugal. But you got to be looking at certain things, right? One-on-one defending, as you brought up.
Yep.
And I know I don't think Cristiano Ronaldo is playing in this match. So you obviously are facing a slightly modified Portugal side. But it's going to be interesting to see. And I think definitely at the back is one of the things, because I mean, look, Atlanta United, same story. I did it. You did it. I did it. America. I just don't think the strength of this team heading into the World Cup is going to be its goal scoring, right? And so I do think you're going to have to be pretty strong defensively. And just be honest, a lot of these defenders have not faced maybe here or there over the course of their career, but for the most part recently, the high level of world-class midfield attack and striking that they're going to be facing at times in the World Cup. And so I do think going up against Belgium, who can provide that, is a good experience. I think Portugal a little bit less so, but still without Ronaldo, a very strong experience, because quite frankly, if you're in the championship and are coming back over, if you're playing MLS, the level's just not there consistently. And so it's going to be a challenge, because I do think this is going to be a United States squad that probably can eke out some 2-0, 1-0 wins. I don't think you're winning a bunch of games 4-3 against higher tier opponents. And so I do think you're going to be led from your defense.
Yep. On the weekend, this was a fatal four-way among Mexico, Spain, the U.S., and Belgium, where the opponents now flip on Tuesday. And it was Mexico and Portugal in a goalless draw on the weekend. But you look at the starting 11, and they did allow for 11 subs. Roberto Martinez used 9 on Saturday night. Ramos, Conceição, Bruno Fernandes, Joao Felix, Costa, Ruben Neves, Mateus Nunes, Silva, Vega, Nuno Mendes, and Silva in between the sticks. So that's your starting 11. for Portugal in this one. Then you can go to a bench that has Joao Cancelo, Thomas Araujo, Pedro Neto, Joao Neves, Diogo Dalot, Vitinha, Paulinho, and he didn't even play Ignacio Gonçalves, Mateus Fernandes, and Horta. So you've got Rafa Leao that you could have had, who had a muscle injury, so he was kept out. Diogo Costa was doubtful with an injury too. So stacked, packed, and racked is probably how to best describe Portugal, even though it was a goalless draw. And Roberto Martinez was just kind of seeing how things were going to be with travel and such. And it was a bit of a stalemate with Mexico on the weekend.
Yeah. Real quick, I want to go back to the Belgium game for a second.
Yeah.
I don't know who approved that jersey matchup, but they should lose their job. Like, it was a real problem. I don't know if the U.S. theoretically was supposed to be white or red. They obviously had on the front, it was okay. But the back of those jerseys being white, along with Belgium kind of having like a whitish cream, whatever that color was, like, it was a mess. Like, it was a really bad mess, at least from the TV visual. Maybe it was more clear. No. Because that was a problem. And I would imagine Portugal's going to be in, I would think, red, and maybe U.S. is going with their other kits, the blue ones. I don't know. That needed to get worked out too, because that was a really bad look. And like, when I was watching some of the highlights a little bit closer, I was like, boy, it just looks like 22 players all on one team out there. So that was a mess. That needs to get rectified a little bit. Either be red or be white, but too much of both, and front side red, backside white when you're playing white. That was not great. Anyways, over to Portugal. Hopefully they figure that out. They can be red, we can be blue, or whatever you need it to be, but not that. Again, looking forward to it. To me, Portugal, as compared to Belgium, is probably more about the midfield and the build than it is about the front line that Belgium has. And so it's going to be a lot, about stopping play and preventing them getting forward quickly. Some of the things we actually do ask Atlanta United maybe to do and avoid that transition moments. But it's going to be interesting to see if Portugal's happy with possession, if they're trying to cede possession and set up counters, because they do have a quality midfield that can turn the game very quickly. And so, yes, the task is on the defense, but I do think the task for the U.S. is also on the midfield. And then you got to find some goal scorers. And again, going back to the original comments I had, I still think that's the biggest question heading into the World Cup is who are you relying on to score goals? And it's not that they can't score goals or won't score goals. I just don't know who it's going to be. It seems like there's 4, 5, 6 guys all kind of in discussion for being A1 or A2 striker. And I don't know which guys that is yet.
Yep, and we will find out as we go. We'll see how it's addressed on Tuesday, and we'll see what the lessons were learned and how they're applied. Teams practicing this morning, kicks off in about 45 minutes up at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground. Then you've got the media opportunities, and I think Belgium practices at Mercedes-Benz later today, and then we get and then it's match day, and there we go. What's your next X number of days before we reconvene, sir, when we get to see each other on Saturday night?
Yeah, looking forward to it. Obviously, we got to get through this friendly, and here at 92.9, Dukes of Bell are actually going to be at Lady Bird on the East Side Beltline. They're going to be giving away a pair. Michelob Ultra is going to be giving away a pair of tickets to the World Cup match. So they're going to be there Tuesday. If you're heading to the stadium and want to stop by Lady Bird, that'll be fun. Yeah, it's a weird week because it is kind of a double match week, but not for Atlanta United, just for soccer fans in Atlanta. So, it's going to be a weird, slow build because normally I'll start to look towards the match with Columbus already, but it's kind of like on hold until we get past Tuesday and kind of get another gauge for the U.S. men's national team. But looking forward to getting back after it. Not necessarily the result you wanted for Atlanta United, but it was a result, right? And you've got points in your last 2 matches and then home again here. So looking forward to it. And again, we'll see probably a few more than maybe expected guys got sent out with national teams. We knew of Miggy and Galarza, but a couple of youth guys got sent out here and there as well. So looking forward to getting all the returns and just seeing, again, this was probably as until the World Cup, obviously, as long of a, downtime-ish moment. So what are the changes? And who comes back from injury too? Do we get a longer look at Jay Fortune? The Barracall-Steon decision, is that coming into play if Barracall has dealt with his muscle injuries? So some interesting stuff to see even in the pregame show Saturday night, which I'll have with Maddie. So looking forward to that.
And then you and I will reconvene when the match is over and find out what happens.
We'll yell about something, I'm sure.
No, yeah, we never yell about anything. As always, my friend, great to see you to bat leadoff on the week, and we will catch up with you down the line. You know you can crash at any time.
You got it, John. Appreciate it.
There he goes, Abe Gordon. And properly hydrated Abe Gordon. We didn't hear anything about any kind of injuries that might have been sustained, so that's always a good thing. And we will we'll break it all down with Abe whenever Abe wishes to come in and vent and let us know what's on his mind. And so that's kind of how we always go with Abe Gordon. So that's that be Abe, and that's how we start things off with him every single week here with SDH AM. Okay. Technically, since he was first and beat us to the particular item that I had on the board, that was opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. We start your day with the most important stories in the game, the right way to start your morning. Black Pitch Coffee, part of the SDH community, showing up at events all over Atlanta. Try their home blend made with beans from Brazil and Guatemala, heavy-bodied with notes of walnut and semi-sweet chocolate, and a rich world-class finish. Opening kickoff, powered by Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. What I wanted to do was break it all down, for opening kickoff. I wanted to do it this way. I don't know if you had the chance to see what was going on in the Moneyball section of what happened in USL Championship this past week. And it was a game in Oakland. And it was an opportunity for those in Oakland to see a very, very rare moment. And here was said moment, brought to us, obviously, by our friends at USL Championship and USL Championship. And where did we pull this from? It's ESPN Plus. So this is the end of a match involving Oakland Roots. And you're trying to kind of slow momentum down a little bit so you can go back and be ready for a counter when you're chasing after an equalizer. That didn't quite happen here.
All right, just watch the keeper in blue here. He runs off the pitch, gets the ball, and throws it. He punts it, and this needs to be better attacking here. Silla's got to find one of his guys. Look, there's a few runners to the left. Pass to one of them, they got an open goal.
To be fair, he was inches away from hitting the open goal himself.
That's some greedy play. That's some greedy play there. Oh, the keeper's still up.
I don't know how none of the referees saw what Spiegel did. It's got to be a yellow card, if not escalating to something worse than that.
Oh, they're calling him.
They're calling him now. Through all of that, Palomino picked up a yellow card. And now a red. Yep, they finally saw it. Spiegel is sent off. Had to be. Unbelievable stuff. Well, to be fair, it makes the conversation we were having earlier about the goalkeeper for the next game a lot more easy for the Oakland Roots. It'll be McIntosh next time. Complete meltdown from Spiegel.
Yeah, it was a complete and total meltdown. Basically, you had tried to you were trying to sit there and come up with an equalizer, and it was all chaos. And so Spiegel just decided, while the initial ball on offense goes already in play, he goes behind his net, grabs the second ball, the emergency ball, and in case you can't do a kick quickly, puts it in play, and that's a no-no. That's another thing we'll ask Bart coming up at 10 o'clock. What was going on there? What the extra ball, adding the no-no and all that kind of stuff. So the no-no in USL Championship for the Moneyball situation in Oakland. And so that's kind of what we were chasing there. That technically was what was supposed to be opening kickoff, but I talked too long. And then Abe came in and joined us, and that was what went down. All right, so Bart's set to join us top of the hour. So what we'll do between now and then is we'll get you prepped for everything. We'll look at all of the numbers, get you ready with post-match and all that kind of stuff. Let's get into the goals. and let you know what happened in this match for those of you that might have just had kind of like a casual passing element. It's up on a screen someplace. You weren't at Mercedes-Benz Stadium with 66,000 of your best friends. I'm going to shout that out too, considering that it was a weekend match for the United States, and you had another match coming up 3 days later, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. You had 66,000 folks. 66,867 was the announced number that was at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And I'm going to say that as much as I can until June. And then we have to change our way of thinking for 7 weeks. 66,867 was the announced attendance. And if you were to, and I know I'm probably kind of comparing apples and oranges a little bit, and I am going to get into the NWSL discussion with Bart in a little bit too. With Denver having their first ever, they're not going to play their entire season at Mile High, but they had, was it 64,000, 63,004, I think was what the number was. And so it was a great day for soccer in general, where you had 63,000 at Mile High. You had 66,000 at Mercedes-Benz for various and different things. But it was very, very cool to have all of this happening on a match day Saturday. So with what you all got to see when you walked in the door, you end up with the U.S. getting the 1-0 lead in the 39th minute. And once again, we talked about set pieces. Then you end up with a set piece, courtesy of our friends at TNT Sports and U.S. Soccer and HBO Max and wherever else you watched it. 39th minute. The United States was acquitting themselves very well, as we were talking about all the stuff over the top and going long and having the speed off of the wings going up against the defenders. Set piece happens, 39th minute, making it 1-0.
Robinson's ball from McKinney. It's Weston McKinney with a goal. For club and country, a man in confident mood. And it's 1-0 for the United States.
Watch where he comes from. I mean, he just reads this so quickly, and looks like it was Salamakers who just doesn't see him, and it wasn't his man initially. And that is such a wonderful touch. I mean, he knows all he's got to do is just shape that foot. The ball was excellent. It had pace on it.
And it certainly did that. That was Luke Wildman and Kyle Martino on the call on TNT, HBO Max, or wherever you consumed your U.S. soccer if you were not in the building. So 39th minute, Weston McKinney loses Salamakers. Salamakers, the way that it was lined up, you had Salamakers and you had McKinney and you had all the other traffic there. So he loses Salamakers, comes around and beats the defender to the ball on the corner from Anthony Robinson. Nice volley, goes into the net, 1-0. Then you end up to give up the goal right before they have Zeno de Bost getting his first international goal for Belgium, and it came from outside the 18. And a lot of folks were thinking, and probably Matt Turner as well, that he should have had that one. And de Bost from distance, it looked like Turner was screened a little bit, at least at the beginning, because de Bost hit it from about 22. And so he hits it at about a 45-degree angle from the net. De Bost goes through traffic, gets it past Matt Turner at the far post. You're 1-1 at the break. Then you end up with goal scored in the 53rd, and this was once again from Onana, and there was pursuit. And this was when Jeremy Doku kind of got unlocked a little bit. Doku's coming down the left-hand side a great deal. Weah is there to be a part of the defense, and he's the first man there. And Doku goes around Weah, and then you see another 5 or 6 try to shade and make it difficult for a pass to go through. Then Doku finds Amadou Onana. Onana, once again, outside the 18, gets it past Turner, and it's 2-1. Then you end up with the moment that I do want to talk to Bart about, the penalty that was called on Tim Ream. And here in this half hour, for me, I'm probably going to go through the the match in and of itself, we'll go through a little bit more in depth with Bart at 10 o'clock. So you end up with, by the end of the call and the end of VAR, you end up with Tim Ream judged to have handled the ball. And like I said, I will bring up more of this with Bart in the half hour. I saw one angle that was different, and I was kind of questioning the whole thing. But I do want to, for cards and calls, this is the play that we're going to talk about. So you end up, after minutes of discussion, De Keeler gets the PK, gets it past Matt Turner, and you're at 3. And then you end up with Luca Bacchio scoring in the 68th. And Luca Bacchio came in as a second-half sub. We get to catch up with our buddy Nino Torres about Luca Bacchio on Thursday to find out what he brings to the table, considering that Nino gets to see him play in Portugal. Luca Bacchio comes off the bench, gets a brace in 14 minutes, and then it's 5-1 at that point. And there had been substitutions and things like that. We'll get into the comments of Mauricio Pochettino and everybody else post-match in a bit. But it's 5-1 at that point. And then with the subs that were there, the U.S. does not, obviously with the individuals that were in at that point, those players not giving up on anything. And so you have a moment defensively to create goal number 2. And it ends up with the guy that Abe is really high on, Big Pat, making it 5-2 with a handful of minutes to go. Once again, courtesy U.S. Soccer and TNT.
And now it's closed down. Adjuman! Belgium turning possession over. And Patrick Adjuman able to add to his international goals tally. Number 6 for Adjuman for the U.S.
And really well done here. Watch, Ricardo Pepi just right away going to chase that. And you never expect a player like Tielemans to give that ball away, but you got to give Ricardo Pepi credit. Goes and closes it down, goes right to Adjuman, and he tucks it in.
Does that, gets past the keeper, gets past Sene Lammens. And that's another thing that that Belgium is having to look at, is their keeper situation. Is it going to be Mats Sells? Is it going to be Sene Lammens? And Lammens got the start. My guess is Mats Sells is probably going to be starting against Mexico tomorrow. And so that's one of the questions that Rudy Garcia has, is who's going to be starting in net for Belgium. Is it Lammens? Is it Sells? But, you want to have that kind of an issue. And it was Sene Lammens. And there were another couple of moments in the first half where Lammens came up big, and if he did not, there was one shot in the 17th, I believe, that was at the back post, and I think it was Weston McKennie again. If McKennie gets it past Sene Lammens, and Lammens was at full extension, and literally he stands out, he's going to his left, and his right arm is like the only thing that's left there that is remaining inside the 6. As Lammens is going to his left, he's trying to come back because he knows that volley's coming from McKennie. If he doesn't stop that volley, literally at full extension and full arm's reach, full wingspan, then obviously you're talking about things being different. But Lammens does make that save. U.S. isn't clinical in another couple of opportunities. And at the break, you're at 1-1. So Lammens once again comes up big, and I want to get his numbers quickly as a part of this. So hang on just a second, and you will see. So United States, and Lammens, I think he was close to like an 8 when it came to his numbers, courtesy of our friends at SofaScore. Let me get Lammens' numbers. So Luca Bacchio a brace, De Keeler a PK, Amadou Onana from outside the 18, DeBost from outside the 18. Lammens, okay, they gave Lammens a 6.7. That seems a bit odd. 3 saves, 2 from inside the box. Then it was, let's see, that was it for him on keeper stats. Then he had 3 recoveries on the day, 41 touches, and passing, it was 28 to 36 passing. It's 78% passes in the opposition half. So basically, long balls, 7 of 15 on long balls from Sene Lammens. That's a big number. And then 4 for 9 passing in the U.S. half of the field. So Lammens comes up big twice. U.S. If U.S. is clinical, then you're talking about different things. But it ends up 5-2. And like I said, we'll get into the numbers and the performances with Bart here coming up just a bit. But let's get into your post. And since we are discussing what happened late, then this was the question to Mauricio Pochettino after the match, courtesy of our friends at U.S. Soccer and Veritone, about the performance late from the folks that came in that were substitutes and what that might mean going forward.
Mauricio, speaking of positives, you make a lot of changes and you come in and you see Pepe and Ajimong create a moment off of that intensity and that effort that you were looking for. How important was it to have that moment, considering what would happen before, and how important was it to end on something of a positive to bring that forward?
Yes, I think for me, in the way that we finished the game, with all the changes and changing of the system too, I think is good because the team have fire and never give up, and they want to try and try and try. I think that is important thing. Is the players that were on the bench, they were supporting the starting 11 in an amazing way. Of course, they are going to have for sure the possibility to play in the next game, and I think is to try to test different things and see some combination. But yes, in the way that we finished the game, it was positive.
Mauricio Pochettino after the match, and I think that was one of the other things that we will probably be getting into is the idea of the back four versus three center backs. And when you had four at the back, that was when Belgium really got into their offensive rhythm. And the U.S. was, pretty much kind of chasing after everyone that Belgium was sending forward at that point. So I think that the lesson out of it from Mauricio Pochettino, at least one of them, is the 3-4-2-1. So that's kind of where we're at. And I guess heading into, wow, okay. So she's joining us. She has survived the weekend. I guess she has survived the weekend. No, she has not. Okay. So Maddie's joining us. You're heading into practice, right?
I am, yes. I'm heading into practice. Well, we're at Franklin right now.
Okay.
And then I'll be heading to practice.
Okay.
But yes.
All right. So we've got you to the top of the hour, unless you want to hang out. So you figure, 15 with you? Will that work?
Yeah, that's fine. That's perfect.
Because then Bart comes in at 10 o'clock and you can have
I'm moving this down. Hold on.
Don't break the phone.
I'm not breaking the phone, John. I'm moving it. Also, look at this, guys. I'm representing.
There you go. Yes. I see now. How did you get the two's ceramic car hanger? I did not.
So my good friend, Miss Sonia Ivanchenko, she found it and was like, this is a gift for you. And I said, oh. And so now I have it. And now it's here.
As it should be. And everybody needs a ceramic key ring / icon hanging from their rearview mirror.
Yeah, I agree.
I think they need to market those, and so we can all have them hanging from our cars.
I agree.
We were getting into bits and pieces of the discussion, and pretty much we're going to be spending most of our time this morning talking USMNT before we show up at Brewhouse tonight from 7 to 9 to start breaking things down all over again. From 30,000 feet, we got into the goals. We got into the idea of the set piece working, getting the 1-0 lead, then giving it up right before the half, and then you end up with the field tilting second half. You get the goal by Onana outside. You get the PK that's there, and then it ends up 4-5. But then you have the guys coming off the bench. We just played the soundbite from Mauricio Pochettino discussing the late subs and getting the goal by Big Pat late. Now that you've had a couple of days or a day and a half to kind of think about it from about 30,000 feet, what sticks in your head from this one?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a conversation that we've had a lot, especially talking about United a little bit too. And for me, it's the reaction to those things. And it's the reaction, especially, you cannot give up at that many goals against Belgium. Belgium is a solid side. Belgium is really solid. I had my doubts. I said it on AST parentheses today. I said I was really curious how Belgium would fare up because they are a very good side. It's just they haven't played a lot of opponents that have challenged them. And I was curious going up against the U.S. how this would fare since, the U.S. is very intense, very physical. That's how it's going to get done. I was curious how Belgium would handle it. They handled it really well. They have quality players. I mean, they're Doku, for example. I mean, he's one of the best wingers, left wingers, I think, in the world. He's incredible. Getting to watch him was incredible. Like, seriously, like he's unreal. But I think for me, what I am a little bit nervous about is the reaction, I think, to the goals. And that's for me where that can't happen. It needs to be, there has to be some sort of reaction. There has to be some sort of stance of, okay, we're going to fight. We're going to continue to do this. Let's figure out a way to get this done. That for me is where I felt like it kind of faltered a little bit. And I think you saw a little bit more of it when you saw the subs come in, when you saw Patrick Agyemang, when you saw Sebastian Berhalter, when you saw all of those guys check in. I think you saw it flip a little bit with that reaction. You got the second goal. It's always, especially when Belgium's just sitting back and not really doing anything because they're up 5-1 right now. They're not going to do anything.
Right.
For me, it's the reaction. You can't give up as many goals as you did. You cannot do that. That cannot happen. Especially because a lot of them, yes, are incredible goals, but a lot of them could have been avoided. A lot of them could have been avoided. I'm thinking about one of the ones. I don't know which goal it was. It was wide open right at the top of the 18. No defender coming in trying to.
Onana. That was the Onana.
Yes. That goal, like that one, can't happen. Pochettino talked about it too. He said that can't happen. He said everyone was bunched to one side. Nobody was watching there. That can't happen. And also, likewise too, I mean, I know we talked a lot about Tim Weah as the right back in that situation and having to go up against Doku and how it was really difficult in that situation. Listen, Doku's a class player. He needed some help. And Pochettino talked about it. He didn't get that help. Especially there. And like, I thought Tim Weah did good in moments, but once the game started to flow and Belgium really started to get a groove, Doku became absolutely unstoppable. Like you needed the extra hands there. You needed the extra person there to help Tim in those situations there with it. I don't think, listen, there are positives to take away. That first half I thought was very solid from the US. I really do. I thought it was very good. I thought it looked really clean. It's the fact that when you come back in from the second half, how quickly in the span, I believe, how many, was it like 10 minutes? Not even, that
8.
You gave up? Yeah, 8 minutes. You gave up how many goals? That can't happen.
No, it was it was 1-1 at the break. Then you end up with Onana scoring in the 53rd, and then you end up with the penalty eventually. So it was 2 goals in 6. And then it ends up as 3 in 15 by the time you get to the 68th minute and Luka Bach scoring his first.
Like 2 goals in 8, 2 goals in 6, that's already insane. That can't happen. And listen, we can go in and talk. I'm assuming you and Bart will be talking about this too, about the handball, not handball against Tim Ream. Yep. I'll give my 2 cents on it, and Bart can disagree or he can agree with me as well. I'm a firm stance here. Here's my thing. We talk about VAR, we talk about referees all the time on SDH, especially in situations, because I do feel like, listen, referees have a significant part in the game, and it is something to talk about in those situations, especially with VAR coming into play. Initially, referee called it a penalty. He saw the hand, and you see it, and there was a replay shown. For me and you, I remember us looking at it being like, oh, like, it was like behind the net, something. We saw it. It did not look like it hit Tim Ream on the arm. It did not. It went to VAR. VAR signaled down, hey, you want to go take a look at this. They go look at it. He takes a look at it. He sits there, he's looking at it, and then he ultimately says, penalty still. Pochettino talked about it, and I understand his frustration because it would be something I would also be frustrated about too. He was frustrated that they went to VAR just to give the penalty again. Like, it's one where normally in that situation, you do see it where, oh, if you go to VAR, you're more than likely going to overturn what happened. Right. Personally, for me, I don't mind that it was not overturned. Because for me, there was not enough evidence. It was not clear and obvious that the referee made an error in the run of play. And that is where I always have a big issue with it. For a referee, it's all of these are judgment calls. But I would rather you make a firm stance in the sense of not letting VAR try to overtake it there. I like that the referee stood his ground and said, no, I've seen it. Like, it's still a penalty. Like, I think it's still a penalty. I don't mind it because it was not clear and obvious that the error was made, in my personal opinion. And I do think you just look at a couple other angles, maybe. That's just me. I don't know. But either way, penalty or not, you cannot give up 2 goals in 6 minutes. That cannot happen at all.
No. And then you respond, and this was a point that I'd kind of made to Abe, and with, when you and I were there in press row, the 2 and 6 and the 3 and 15, I think it started really as they were discussing the penalty, and then de Keeler converts it. and then you end up with Luca Bacchio coming off the bench and getting his first. You could feel the air just exit the building, and it's like the energy that was there literally until you see Pepe and Big Pat get the goal in the 87th and combine playing defense and pressing. The air just went out of the building, and all of that momentum that you had in the first 45 plus with the fans just was out gate 1 and gate 2, and it was difficult to get the fans back into it.
Yeah, at that rate, you lose the fans. And listen, in a place like the Bens, we know how much of a fortress it can be. And you want to use your fans and you want to get the fans on your side in that moment. And unfortunately, when you give up those many goals and how it happens too, you start to lose the fans. And then that kind of can be deflating, especially for a player too, when you know you're at your home stadium, when you know that's happening, when you feel that silence, it's like, ooh. I heard something, and this is so like, sorry, I'm like going off track. Going back to the Winter Olympics, talking about Ilya Malinin for the USA.
Yeah.
He had that one skate where just nothing was going right. But it's the same thing. In figure skating, fans are watching when you do an axel, when you do all of that. You hear the crowd. They go, ooh, yes, absolutely. When you mess up, you hear, ooh.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of the time, you hear the breath, you hear, oh, are they going to make this one? Are they not going to make it? Who knows?
Yeah.
But the crowd then kind of delegates that too. It's the same thing in soccer. If things aren't going well and the crowd is just stagnant and not on your side, you're going to feel it as a player too. And you can't have that. You want to give them something to get excited about. You want to give them something where they can get more involved. They can become the 12th man. I'm quoting an AME high here. You need a 12th man there. And that, unfortunately, when you give up the goals the way you did for the US, you didn't get that 12th man. And that can really hurt you, especially, I think, in a place like the Bens, where, I mean, it literally feels like a ruckus. Like, honestly, when McKennie scored the goal, I was like, ooh, okay, here we go. I was like, that's the crowd. That's it. But yeah, you just can't let that happen. And it's as simple as that. You can't let it happen. And listen, there are things to take away from it. It's an exhibition game because, again, Pochettino will get mad at me if I say for the word friendly.
We're not going to use the effort, no.
Yeah, he'll get mad at me. But I think there's a lot of things to take away from it, and I'm really interested to see what it looks like today from talking to the players that we get in the mix zone, as well as with Mauricio Pochettino as well. I'm curious what he's going to say about it, especially going up against Portugal. Portugal's a very, very top side, and they're a side where you have to be switched on. Concentration has to be all alert. You have to make sure you're all over the place. You have to make sure that you are focused on the game. You have to make sure that you are attentive at what's going on. And don't let any other distractions or anything else outweigh you. But yeah, and also and hopefully the jerseys aren't an issue either. And we're, hopefully that's.
Man. Well, I mean, unless Portugal has something cream colored that we don't know about, I think we'll be okay.
I think so too. I hope so. I hope.
Yeah. All right. So your plan is once you stop talking to us. What did you get this morning on the way in? Coffee-wise, caffeine?
Sorry, I flipped the script a little bit. I got Chick-fil-A actually.
She's swapped her phone side. The video goes away.
I think I'm glitching.
You are.
Yeah, it's fine. I think I'm like frozen in this one spot, but it's okay. You can hear me. That's all that matters. Yes. No, I went to Chick-fil-A, so I have a Chick-fil-A coffee with me. So.
Okay, so Chick-fil-A coffee. It is mixed zone. It is Mauricio Pochettino. It is a little bit of practice, and then brew house tonight from 7 to 9 with you and me and Jason and everybody else. Yeah.
I believe so. I am unsure if I'm joining virtually, but I will be a part of the show no matter what. So.
Okay, so I think if you're joining virtually, you might be batting leadoff, and so we'll catch up with your thoughts.
Let's do it.
Well, so have fun at practice with the USMNT. Enjoy your coffee, and we will catch up with you tonight at the brew house.
Absolutely. I'll see y'all later.
All right, there goes Maddie Cruz. She's going to practice. She's going to practice to see what's up with the USMNT as they get ready. We'll get into the positives and all the other things that are on the collective mind. Bart, like I said, Bart Keeler set to join us coming up here in just a little bit. We'll go over positives. We'll go over Abe's questions. Coming up, the strength of the team, and then goal scoring, and we'll get into all of that. And then after that, like I said, we still have sound from Matt Turner. We can hear from Patrick Weah. So that's there as well. So we've got all of those things. The De Zerbi update. And it literally has gone in stages this morning. Literally, it has gone from being so understanding that De Zerbi is now close on a 5-year deal. It went from like the two camps are talking to now close to an agreement. Told Spurs last week you wanted to wait till the summer, but now a lucrative long-term deal has made him open to taking the job now. And we've gone from literally just discussing things to now being so considering a proposal. So literally it goes from considering a proposal to closing in on a job to close to an agreement. That's where we've gone since basically 6:00 this morning, our time. Considering a proposal. Well, first off, he didn't want to do it. He wanted to wait until next year. So we go from literally at 6:00 this morning, considering a proposal to closing in on a job to now close to an agreement. Literally, this is what we got in stages here this morning, from about 6:00 this morning to 8:00 this morning to 20 minutes ago from our buddy Ben Jacobs. And last word on Spurs is that De Zerbi is now close to an agreement in all capital letters, in quotation marks, in a different font. Understood the length of the contract is supposed to be 5 years. So you are pushing everything to the center of the table for Roberto De Zerbi, it appears. It appears that is what you're doing. You're like, okay. And this was the other part in all of this. Traditionally, in these situations, after it was announced that Igor Tudor was not coming back after 44 days, then you got 7 matches left. You're right at the edge of the relegation fight. You're looking for somebody that would be there for those 7 games because De Zerbi had initially said, I'm not interested in doing this. Get back to me if you survive relegation and we'll talk next year. You're looking for those stopgap guys. Big Sam sending, a box of chocolates, some flowers, and whomever and whatever to the front office at Spurs Stadium, which still doesn't have a corporate sponsor. So Big Sam, I imagine, sending, chocolates and big bouquets of flowers, wishing you the best with the sash across the front, like the horseshoe, sent it in on an easel. But then you were looking at Sean Dyche. And Sean Dyche was going to be the guy that you would grab for this handful of matches, since nothing worked with him at Forest. And that didn't go, well or long. But the problem in getting Sean Dyche, according to media in England, was that because of his contract that he signed with Nottingham Forest, he basically would be taking a financial hit if he picked up another gig. So it was more lucrative for Sean Dyche not to get a gig than it would have been for him to try and help Spurs and save them from relegation. So it was a better financial decision for Dyche to stay on the beach. And so now for the final 7 weeks of the season, 7 match days of the season, he can be in a studio someplace and he can just sit there and yell at Spurs if he wants to. So everybody gravitated to Sean Dyche. But it was more expensive for Dyche. It would be more of a hit to his wallet if he had taken the Spurs gig than it would be for him to sit and not get the Nottingham Forest paychecks from Evangelos Marinakis. So then, obviously, Spurs is freaking out. They're going, okay, what do we do? Do we bring Ryan Mason back in? Do we try to bring, another, just somebody of a stopgap kind of a thing? Harry Redknapp's name had been mentioned. That's where Spurs is, until something is official with De Zerbi. We have to say is. You're looking at like Ryan Mason, Harry Redknapp. You're going, okay, oh my God, we can't get Dyche. What do we do? And then that has necessitated them chasing after De Zerbi, offering him a 5-year deal, according to reports. 5-year deal. 5 years. 5 years. And everything slid to the center of the table. Dude, we need you now. Can you just kind of take the hit and be our coach for this run? And I imagine if he's in the championship, he's probably going to be one of the most expensive coaches the championship's ever had. So just to recap everything, and let you know where things sit. Just to where things are. Where things stand with Spurs right now. You are 1 point from, you are safe by a point. You do have the best goal difference barely, but basically you've got Wolves at 17 points. They've got West Ham this weekend. Burnley has lost 3 of 5, 2 points in their last 5 matches. They've got 20 points. They're basically 10 points from safety. They've got Brighton. West Ham is at 29 points, but they have a far inferior goal difference to Spurs. 29 points, goal difference of minus 21. Spurs is at 30 points. They've lost 4 of 5. Igor Tudor won once, I believe, in all comps in the 44 days he was there. Spurs at 30 points, 1 point clear. They have Sunderland this weekend. Nottingham Forest at 32 points. Leeds is at 33. That's 15 through 18 right now. 4 teams, 4 points, 1 spot. And it's not the spot you want. But apparently, possibly, probably, maybe, they're talking to De Zerbi and they want 5 years. Hey, dude, if we give you a 5-year deal and we give you a bump if we stay up and we give you a bonus for being a part of all of this to try to rescue us, will that work? Italics, bold-faced. Well, that wasn't italics. It was bold-faced, different font, close to an agreement. So the impending saga of Roberto De Zerbi and Spurs, of the strength of the schedule look like for Spurs. So hang on. Let's see what the rest of their grid looks like. Okay, so upcoming next 5 for Spurs. At Sunderland, not easy. Home to Brighton. At Wolves, which has turned itself not to being easy. At Villa, and then home to Leeds. So there is some wiggle room here. There is some stuff that if you take care of business, you should be okay. At Molineux is going to be big. It's another one of those relegation 6-pointers. Leeds is going to be another one. So 2 of your next 5 can go a long way in figuring out what you're going to be. At Sunderland on the 12th. Then 18th, home to Brighton. 25th at Wolves. At Villa, May the 2nd. Home to Leeds, May the 9th. That's the next 5 for Spurs right now. Yeah. It is crazy. All right. We'll get back to De Zerbi in a bit. Okay. So let's get you into post-game and let you know what everybody else was talking about after the match. We gave you what Mauricio Pochettino said. Here after the match is Christian Pulisic and what was on his mind as he faced us all in the mix zone.
But yeah, I have to be more clinical for sure in those moments because, you miss that and then they go and they score and it changes the game. And it's frustrating for me for sure. And I'm just going to work to improve. That's all I can do.
Part of the process for the World Cup, having these bad moments.
I mean, yeah, it's better to have it now, I guess. We have another opportunity against a strong team Tuesday. We want to get a good result and feel good going into the World Cup.
Christian, you mentioned it's been a rough patch for you a bit, at club as well. It's not the first time you've been through a rough patch in your career. Everybody has them. What have you learned previously in your career about how you get through something like this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to think of it really as like a rough patch. To be honest, I felt even the second half, I felt really, really good and sharp, and I feel good in a lot of ways. Like that ball bounced up and I hit it, and it's just for me that's normally something I finish easily. And
talking about the left-footed
shot. Yeah, and I know a ball will hit off my knee and go in, and then things will change. So I'm not gonna panic. Better now than this summer. Things are gonna change, and that's all I can be. I'll just be positive. That's it.
How do you deal with the frustrations of going through a period like this? How do you deal with this, after a game and getting ready for the next game?
try to do recovery as normal. In the next couple of days, we're going to watch a bit of video and film and see kind of where things went wrong, I guess, and just work to improve them, work on the field, and come up with a plan, and just fight to get a good result and put it behind us at a certain point, because it's done now.
Sorry, Christian. You said it was pretty positive with us in the press conference. Curious what it was like with you guys after the game.
Oh, we didn't have a chance to speak with him yet. We'll speak probably later at that time.
Christian, we just talked to Tim about dealing with guys like Doku, especially in transition. You guys did a lot of good things going forward, but conversely, do you think you guys are a bit more exposed defensively because of the way you're approaching things in the final third?
I mean, I don't think it's necessarily the way we're approaching things in the final third. I think in some moments it felt like maybe we did lose a ball or two, and it felt like they had a lot of space for sure in transition. I mean, those guys, you've got some of the best in the world running at you. It's not easy. But yeah, I guess small details. Like, I want to watch it back and see kind of how we can position ourselves a bit better when we are attacking as a group to kind of sustain attacks a little bit longer and not, have problems in transition like we did.
Christian Pulisic after the match against Belgium. And so, and that was part of the conversation that was there. But yeah, he said he wanted to go back and look at things. And, once again, we discussed the moment with McKinney in the 17th with Sene Lamans. He mentioned in the discussion with Christian Pulisic about the one big swing that he took, and it was a left-footed chance, and it just climbed off his instep as he was going the follow-through, climbed off his instep, and just ended up skied and going north of the net. So you had those particular moments that were there. And Pulisic on the day, if we get into our numbers, once again, Christian Pulisic, he went 70 minutes, so you imagine that Christian Pulisic is probably going to give you another 70 coming up, at least. 26 of 29 passing at 90%. Passes in the opposition half, 17 of 19 on the day. He did have the one key pass. On the dribble, 41 touches, 1 for 3 on the dribble. Defensively, he came back and he had 3 recoveries. He did win a ground duel, and he was called for 1 foul. Shooting on the day, he did have the 3 total shots, and he was called for offside once on the left-hand side. Just to kind of give you the other numbers, Malik Tillman, on his action, getting a start once again, 71 minutes. And you saw there were two triple changes. And don't be surprised tomorrow if you end up with another 11 substitutions that could be made in a match like this. And Rudy Garcia of Belgium did make the point that the result was not indicative of the team that he was playing against, the head coach for Belgium, because of he broke it down at like 60 and 30 was where he broke it down, was the substitutions that started happening in the 60th minute. And then you have how things are broken up there in relationships and trying to figure out, okay, so I'm in here now doing this and then working with these individuals. And so Rudy Garcia wasn't really sold on 5-2 being the real indicators that were attached to the match. Malik Tillman, 3 key passes for Tillman, 1 for 2 on his crosses, 25 of 27 passing at 93%. 3 for 3 on his long balls on the day against Belgium on 37 touches, fouled twice. Defensively, Tillman would come back, 2 defensive contributions, won both of the tackles he was involved in, had 2 recoveries, was 7 of 11 on his duels, won all 4 in the air. Won all 4 duels in the air, Malik Tillman, and then shooting was not registering in the shots for the United States. Weston McKennie had the yellow card. He went 70. Gio Reyna came in at that point. 2 key passes for Weston McKennie, and he was successful on his lone long ball attempt, 33 touches. Defensively, it was a long day for Weston McKennie. And shooting, it was had the 1 goal, 2 total shots, both on target, and 1 big chance missed. So you have the 1 big chance by McKennie that was missed, the 1 big chance in the 17th, and then 1 big chance by Pulisic that he referenced just a second ago. And so you're talking about all of these moments. And if you're clinical in these moments, and then, like I said, we've always talked about game state. Then we're talking about different things. Valerian Balogun went 70 before Big Pat came in. It was 2 shots, 1 on target, 1 was blocked on the day for Balogun. 9 of 11 passing at 82%, 14 touches, and defensively came back and had 2 recoveries. as well as having one dribble pass. So Folarin Balogun really did not have a whole lot of touches in the 70 minutes that he was there. So the rest of the starting 11 in this matchup, once again, Matt Turner was in net. Jedi, Tim Ream, McKenzie, Tim Weah listed, and they had it listed as a 4-2-3-1. Tanner Tessman and Johnny were ahead of the head of the back line. But honestly, when it was not the back four that Mauricio Pochettino had in, you would see Jedi go forward down the left. You'd have Tim Weah going forward down the right or the left-hand side. And then you would have your three center backs, basically, of Tim Ream and Mark McKenzie. And then you would see Tanner Tessman drop back to help out and be that third center back when you would have Jedi and Tim Weah going forward. So that was what it looked like. And then when you had that four, you had Doku, you had Salamakers, you had Meunier, and it was just all of this activity. And the fact that, and I mentioned this after the whistle, it's up over at Off the Woodwork podcasting section, 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app. For Kevin De Bruyne to have as quiet an evening as he did, legitimately, we didn't really talk about Kevin De Bruyne a whole lot. But that's the kind of quiet that you get from Kevin De Bruyne. He went 70. 3 key passes, 3 of 7 on his crosses, 17 of 24 passing at 71%, 3 for 3 on long balls. So 3 key passes, 3 accurate crosses, 3 for 3 on his long balls. 43 touches for De Bruyne. Came back, had a defensive contribution, won a tackle, had 6 recoveries, and won a ground duel. 4 total shots for De Bruyne, 1 on target. He had 3 of them blocked. So to have as quiet an evening as we did in the mentions of Kevin De Bruyne, for him to have those numbers that he had, once again, that's just what you see out of Rudy Garcia in Belgium. You'll sit there and it's like, oh, okay, so De Ketelaere, he had the evening he had. Salamakers had the evening he had, even though he was burned early on the set piece that got Atlanta United. Wow. Building, John. The USMNT, their first goal, Salamakers got, so it was Salamakers that was marking. Then you have McKinney going around and getting in front of Raskin, and the volley past Sene Lamans, and it was 1-0. But to have as quiet an evening as Kevin De Bruyne had, and to still have those numbers, speaks to what Kevin De Bruyne can still do and to what part he plays in Belgium offensively. Also, after the match, Scally in the clearance, Scally had, there were a lot of folks that had long nights. You had Scally, who got the yellow, and he came in and gave you 20. And you ended up with Scally getting the yellow as a part of all of that. So it was the subs. We heard after the match that Johnny was still kind of dealing with some, I'm not going to say soreness, but just some uncomfortability, to create a word. That's why he went 45. Christian Roldan came in, gave you 45. Then you had Freeman, Berhalter, and Max Arston come in at 64th for Tessman, Weah, and Jedi. You can't have the error that Arston had. Arston's error leads directly to a goal. Gio Reyna comes in. Joe Scally came in. Gio Reyna came in. Scally and Big Pat came in along with Ricardo Pepi. And so Reyna came in for Weston McKennie. Scally came in for Malik Tillman. Ajimong for Balogun. Pepi for Pulisic. You still did not play 3 of your keepers, Brady Schulte and Matt Freese. Austin Trusty, Aiden Morris, Brendan Aronson were available and did not play. But yes, for Joe Scally, his night in 20 minutes, had the 1 recovery, won the 1 duel in the air, he did not win the other 2 that he had on the ground. 29 touches in 20 minutes and 88% passing, and had the 1 long ball and had the 1 cross, but was not active offensively going forward. So you had, you could not have, in the Onana goal, everybody over pursues. I will go into we'll hear from Matt Turner, and we'll hear from Tim Weah coming up in a bit. But the goal where everybody over pursues, Onana's wide open outside the 18. You can't have that. Pochettino admitted that after the match. Then you have the Arfston error, and then you have the other. Let's see, it was. Now it's all running together. But so if we go Scally and we go Arfston and then over pursuit and then Doku going 1v1. Once again, that's stuff that you learn from. But I think the biggest thing is you've got to have 3 center backs. So you're not beat down the wings like you had like Jeremy Doku do. Speaking of which, once again, caught up with Weah and Matt Turner after the match. And so here is part of the conversation that we had in the mix zone with Tim Weah, where he broke down everything that he saw after the match. And so here, that conversation is from the match day.
What's your reaction generally to that game?
Frustration, because obviously you wanna put out a good performance, you wanna win. We went into the game with that on our mind, so yeah, definitely frustrating.
Did you feel like it was a good performance for the first 35, 40 minutes? Or?
Yeah, I felt like we're pushing, we're getting in behind. We created a lot of opportunities. And you know, in football, when you don't put those opportunities away, and the other team has their opportunities and they put them away, the game can change. So yeah.
What changed in like the 10 minutes after you guys went up 1-0, and then the early second half?
You know, they were just getting Doku isolated, and he creates in a lot of ways. I mean, him just going 1v1 can open up a lot of spaces. He's a guy that you have to double team, so when you draw a player out, there's a player open. So I mean, I think they benefited off of that, and yeah, they were the better team today.
Yeah, could you talk about how you guys planned to deal with him, and then how that went? Because it seemed like you guys had a pretty good handle on him for the first 30 minutes or so, and then something changed.
No, I felt like the plan was to obviously double team and take him down the line, obviously, and I felt like we did a pretty good job. But Doku's Doku. I mean, one of the best wingers in the world, so you know he finds his ways to slip past you, and he did that today. And yeah.
But you were playing against the guy who's that good 1v1.
Yeah, I played against him.
Oh right,
yeah. Sorry. I played against him a couple times, so yeah. I mean, today he was really good, and you know he helped his team a lot.
But you were finding a lot of space, many opportunities on your side during the first half. What do you think changed that you weren't having those chances further on?
I felt in the first half there were just more balls over the top, and I'm a guy who likes to get in behind, and I just felt like we were using that to our advantage. And second half, maybe we didn't do the same. I don't know, it could be fatigue or whatever, but you know, just the way the game went. And yeah, we just have to be better next time.
Big picture. Big picture. Does this feel like a reality check for you guys at all after?
No, it's a learning experience. Obviously, you win some, you lose some. Obviously, you don't want to lose with them netting 5 goals. But this is the process. This is the process that we have to go through. We're all professionals. We have to bounce back. I think we have an important game against Portugal. Tighten up some things that we didn't tighten up tonight. And yeah, we bounce back. I mean, that's the key with being a good team, working on that chemistry, and I think we'll be fine.
He thinks they'll be fine once they get through the learning experience that was there. You noticed in his sound bites, like I said, we'll play Matt Turner coming up in a second, that they view it as a learning experience. And one of the things that I think, for me anyway, that I will be looking for, regardless of which 11 are out there, what 27 are available, is how the team responds when you have that one moment happen, and then another, and then another. The 3 goals in 16 minutes, specifically, if you look at, say, if you take it a moment at a time, then you go, all right, so if you take the PK, or actually if you take the Onana goal, okay. So take the Onana goal, and then you end up with that happening outside the 18. That made it 2-1. Then how do you respond after that? 3-1 at that point after the PK from De Ketelaere after VAR. Then you end up with Luca Bacchio scoring when he comes in and made it 4 and eventually 5. That 3-16, that's what I'm looking at for me. Because there will be those individuals, and we've seen it with our favorite clubs regardless in situations, where if things start trending downward, there's somebody that's going to sit there and stop everything from rolling downhill to start things back over so you can try to gain momentum and head back into a match. Who are those individuals going to be that will put the stop sign up at the 4-way stop and sit there and go, nope, you're not allowed to come through here, road closed. You got to come up with an alternate route. And then the guys that are with you take the ball, go back the other way, and stop that run. See it in college basketball all the time. Those top teams, they get a run. You call timeout. How does the team respond after that run and the timeout, after what the coach is saying? The building gets loud. You're trying to figure out, okay, how do we stop all of that has been created, and how do we regain that confidence and then get back into the match? That's what I'm looking for. Like I said, and I'm not necessarily even looking at particular individuals. I want to see if, as a group, and then if they're focusing on one individual that will be that guide for them. Puts the stop sign up in the middle of the 4-way stop. Cars coming at you, stop. Okay. Now, what do you do to get traffic going back the other way? Who is that policeman with the whistle and the stop sign? Like I said, and it can be any number of folks. I just want to see how a team responds. One goal gets scored in open play. You learn from that. Second goal ends up as a PK. We'll get into it in a sec. Maddie addressed it briefly. And then you end up with Luca Bacchio getting 1 and then 2. When they're on a run like that going against you, who stops it? Who takes control of the situation and brings everybody forward heading back the other way? That's what I'm looking forward to. 3-16 is 2-3 with Onana and the PK, or 2-6 by the end of the PK. 2-6, 3-16. You can't have that if you're going to try and chase after trophies, unless you have folks that are going to be, and key results, unless you have folks that are incredibly confident in their own abilities next time out, if you're in a knockout situation or if you're in a group situation. Who can be those folks that can turn things around for you? And like I said, it could be somebody who's a part of the starting 11, could be somebody who's on the bench that might be getting a spot start that you learn from. Might be somebody that's there in practice that you find out and see what's going on. Who are those folks that can stem the tide? Who are those folks that can stem the tide? But yes, you can't have, Abby is saying, you can't have a loss by 3. You can't have one and then snowball. The downhill rolling gets bigger and more out of control. But you can't have the individual errors that were there with Arvston, Scally, I think Berhalter was mentioned, and the defensive positioning. Individual mistakes, creating opportunities for the other side, creating short fields, and being clinical on their chances. So I want to know who's going to be that person that's going to sit there and go, yo, this stops now. We head back the other way. I want to know who those individuals are. I just want to know who they are. I don't want to necessarily have to do the on-the-job training so we see it firsthand. I just want to know who's going to have those kinds of thoughts in their head to sit there and go, okay, this stops now. We're going back the other way. We're going to take the game by the scruff of the neck. We're going to go forward. Pick your cliche, but this stops here. None shall pass. We're done. You can't have 2-6. You can't have 3-16 because you go from 1-1 to 4-1, and then it's pretty much done and dusted at that point. So that's kind of where I was in this discussion. Well, and Miles is dealing. Abby says she'd like to see those who weren't on the roster playing tomorrow. Aronson, yes. Miles and Chris Richards are dealing with injuries. And that's another part of this dynamic that we saw against Portugal, is that without Chris Richards and without Miles Robinson, what was it going to look like? And we got the answer and we got formationally what we need to, what we feel like in these situations, what it's got to be with the veteran presence that's back there. So doubtful you'll see Miles, probably won't see Chris Richards, but they were on the bench and they were wearing their really cool pullovers. So Aronson, probably seeing him to a certain amount of minutes. I think Johnny, once again, I think Johnny's on a pitch count. So might be 45 where Johnny is concerned, because like I said, you had Mauricio Pochettino say that he was dealing with physical concerns, and that's why he only went 45. And Christian Roldan came at the break. So with what happened, who did not get minutes? The three keepers, Austin Trusty, Aiden Morris, Brendan Aronson. Like I said, I will be intrigued to see what the starting lineup looks like, what the approach is going to be up against the heavy hitters in Portugal, and who's going to be on the bench, who's getting minutes. Who does Mauricio Pochettino want to see coming into this match with Portugal? Does he put Matt Freese between the sticks to get a peek at Matt Freese? Matt Turner, 5 saves, 3 from inside the 18, had a high claim. And that was another one of the issues. I think it was with the DeBost goal where Matt Turner does the double punch clear and clears it outside the 18, but clears it straight out of the 18 instead of off to the side to where you can pin your opponents if they end up reclaiming the ball for a recycled chance. Double punch clear, went straight. Easy grab, settle, over to DeBost. DeBost sends it through traffic from about 20, gets it past Matt Turner, and it was 1-1 at the break. So that was a decision that, Matt Turner made, and he directed it straight as opposed to off to one side or the other. Second chance, and it ends up 1-1 after 45. 1 defensive contribution, 1 clearance, 7 recoveries for Matt Turner on the day. And once again, keeping 5 saves, 3 from inside the 18, 1 high claim on the day. So do we see Matt Freese? What does the back line look like? Probably the same. Maybe Johnny's on a pitch count. Maybe Johnny sits and you start someone like an Alex Freeman or a Joe Scally. You start someone else, perhaps instead of a Tanner Tessman, but you still would probably have Pulisic, Tillman, McKinney, and Balogun. Maybe you start Ricardo Pepi and flip the script a little bit. So Ricardo Pepi would get the start. Big Pat would get the start. And then you look at your minutes with Balogun and see how that goes. Like I said, I'm interested. I want to see how this plays out against Portugal. Do you take more of a defensive posture with Portugal? Or do you just sit there and it's like, all right, let's dance and let's see what happens? Considering that you want to see where you stand, you want to see what that 27 is going to look like, that you're going to have wear the uni and get the phone call. I'm thinking maybe one of those, I think maybe Johnny maybe starts, maybe gets 45, maybe he's active on the bench. I think a lot of it's just going to be recovery and rehab and how it looks and what the physios say. But that's what we'll stare at. So I think that it's going to be 3 center backs. It's going to be the 3-4-2-1. And we'll see what the changes are when it comes to all of this. So now, all right, the Tim Ream, and like I said, we got into this briefly with, actually, so tell you what, since we talk about Matt Turner, let me grab Matt Turner's sound from Mix Zone, and we will let everybody know what Matt Turner had to say. So this is once again from Saturday night. And once again, Matt Turner in Mix Zone, and I'm hoping I pulled the right thing because I kind of confused myself with a couple of different ID plates, but I'm thinking this is Matt Turner.
The game went very well until the level 1-1. And then the penalty kick put the game at 3-1. It was a very confusing play about the handball, if it was or not was. What happened mentally, psychologically to the team at that point of the game? That we were playing very well until 40 minutes.
I mean, if I had the perfect answer to that, I think I would have tried to nip it in the bud, but this is soccer, this is football. It's a live, ever-changing game, and that's why we all love it, the emotions, the passion. And I think that, you know, the goal for 2-1 came right after we had a really good chance of our own, and that was a frustration. And then obviously then you turn around and, you know, they get into another good spot, make a couple good plays on the goal line to keep it. And yeah, obviously a penalty. You never want to concede penalties at this level with these players. So, yeah, I mean, from there, I think we just need to be clever and realize, you know, even though it's 3-1, you know, there's still all to play for. And we got to stick together, and that's something that we can definitely take away from this game as a learning.
Well, of course, things didn't go as you would have liked them to go today. The good thing is you have another match coming up right on Tuesday. So what are some of the things that you want to see done differently then?
I want to win, first and foremost, and I want the fans to leave this stadium looking at our team and saying, yeah, that's the team that's going to be able to, that's the team that I can identify with. And I think that is probably the biggest disappointment with having this beautiful crowd here today, and the energy was that fans were leaving this game disappointed, and we were leaving the game disappointed. I think as players, you never want to leave anything out on the pitch, and I think we all felt like we should have and could have done better today.
Matt, could you talk about the conversation when you found out you were starting, what that conversation was like with Mauricio, and just your mentality going into this game?
It wasn't much of a conversation. I think it was more of just here's the starting 11, and I was on it, and I didn't think it needed to be a big deal. You know, this is a coach that will give you opportunities when you earn them, and that's a really good feeling. So, and then from there, I think the overarching message is just continue to be myself, because being myself and approaching every day with a similar mentality, whether it be training, a friendly match, you know, an MLS game, I'm holding myself to the same standards and pushing myself in the same way, and just to continue to be myself.
Matt Turner after the match. I did pull the right sound, so good for me. All right, so that was Matt Turner after the match. And Matt was asked, and we got to get into the jersey thing here a little bit. And Adam Crafton had some background. That Matt Turner was asked about it, really didn't want to bring up the discussion. And then Adam Crafton after the match. And so Crafton got into Jersey Gate a little bit. Neither the USMNT nor Belgium had their alternative kit at the venue to change kits involving the color clash. Post-kickoff, they tried to source from the team hotels, but it wasn't possible. Amadou Onana said it was awful on the field, and Lamans raised the issue at half with the kit man. And then from there, I'm trying to see what else he had mentioned as a part of all of that. But that was the biggest element from Crafton that was brought forth, because he went down and tried to come up with an answer as to what happened with the color agreement, shall we say, of those that were no, I don't want that. No, I'm trying to discover. There we go. So, all right. So let me get Crafton's official work that was attached. So where is it? All right, come on. Let's see. All right. So here is what went down according to Adam Crafton. Multiple sources familiar with the situation remaining anonymous, as they were not authorized to speak publicly on the matter, told The Athletic neither team had a spare stash of alternative jerseys to be able to change the kit after the game had started and the clash had become apparent. There was a moment in the first half where the U.S. team assessed whether it would be possible to recover alternative jerseys from the team hotel, but it was not possible or realistic within the time frame, while the Belgian alternative was not available. Christian Pulisic told reporters jerseys were difficult to deal with, said, quote, everyone was a bit shocked when they realized the clash on the field at the start of the game. Mentioned Amadou Onana. USMNT set up the fixture at Mercedes-Benz in the recently released jersey. Kit evokes colors of the American flag, wavy red and white stripes running across the strip, larger white space on the back of the jersey. Belgium wore its own recently unveiled men's away which is a multicolored pale sky blue jersey, which and also includes pink patterns and black detail. As the two teams lined up for kickoff, it immediately struck many of those present within the stadium. The two kits were difficult to set apart. As the players spread out during the game, it became slightly easier, but the problem was particularly evident at set pieces as players bunched together. Athletic has learned that the colors were approved well in advance of the game, with both teams putting forward newly released kits. Sources added it was only when the game started that the severity of the clash became apparent. And Pulisic, after the teams lost, quote, it, meaning the jerseys, is not an excuse at all because both teams deal with that, but that just can't happen. It was a bit strange. It was very difficult. I didn't know until we took off the pre-match shirts and then saw it, and everyone was a bit shocked. It's difficult when a lot of times you get the ball, you look up, and you really can't lock in on someone. You can only base it off the color of the shirt. That's how it works, and when it's very similar, it's not difficult. And then you had fans discussing it on social media, and Natalie Macchio, I'm hoping I pronounced that correctly, color designer of the jersey, said that Nike's design of the kit had received official approvals from FIFA prior to release. And then on Twitter, Macchio writes, whoever approved this matchup messed up FR, meaning for real, apparently, as the kids say. So Sene Lamans was asked about it. I'm going to be honest. At the beginning of the game, it was quite difficult because of the same jerseys. I asked the kit man during halftime. They said they didn't decide it. It was that both countries wanted to play with their new kits, I think. So that was the thing. Wasn't the best, I think, from the stands, but also on the pitch. It was not the most easy thing. So I hope in the future it gets a little bit more different. Blue shorts were the USMNT, white shorts for Belgium. Belgian view, according to sources close to their federation, is that even their alternative kit, red home uniform, would not have resolved the issue completely, as the MNT home kit has red waves on the jersey. Their view is that the onus should have been on the U.S. to wear its deep navy blue kit, which would have the optimal solution to avoid a clash. Laws of the game are set by IFAB, and Law 4, detailing player equipment, says that the two teams must wear colors that distinguish them from each other and the match officials. Usually the referee would determine if a clash is present. The match officials on the day were a team of Uruguayans led by referee Esteban Ostojic. U.S. Federation at the time asked to explain the process behind the choice for the colors of the game. Well, I think the choice was that they wanted to, with it being available, they wanted to show, hey, this is the new kit, and perhaps folks would be interested in it, and perhaps folks should be interested in purchasing said new kit. So that would be, that would be. It's like, to me, that's a bit of a slam dunk. Well, why did you do it? Well, I'll tell you, because we wanted to see it. That's basically why. Is that enough of an explanation for you? So that would be to me why it all broke down. Morning, Lokeville. So, and I know that, and Lokeville discussing the in-stadium experience, and the boss was the same way. The boss was there, and she was concerned by the lack of information that was given, lack of replays. What we are used to for Atlanta United games, we are spoiled. And I'm spoiled when it comes to what I get to look at and give you guys at the half. We are spoiled. I imagine that this is probably more either a FIFA remit or an in-building remit for these two fixtures. I don't know if we are going to be getting as many replays, as many announcements, and if it's just going to be somewhat of a minimalist experience. I don't know that. I'm guessing that what we saw and what we will see tomorrow night is going to be something more along the lines of this. Not what we're used to when we have home matches for Atlanta United, but it might be just the one replay. It might be just a couple of announcements here and there. So that way, that might be how you differentiate one to the other. But my guess is that this was a remit on some level, that your replays would be at a minimum and your interaction over public address would be a minimum. The Ream PK. Now this was, and I'm circling back to this because of what Maddie talked about at the end of hour number 1. And specifically, it was one angle, and I think it was shown on television, and it was an angle that was directly behind the net. And you see, and as you're looking forward, picture Tim Ream standing in front of you. The angle from behind the net went through the netting, and you see Tim Ream with his extended left arm, and it looked like that the ball did not change rotation, and it went through between that gap of space between his left arm and his left leg. I didn't see it hit anything in that one replay. It was only shown once, not shown again. So from there, like I said, I'd like to know where that replay went. In the pantheon of replays and all the files that were available, where that replay went. Because that was not a replay that was shown during VAR. That was not available to the man in the middle, Mr. Ostojic, or it wasn't shown to him. But his initial call was handball. And there was another angle that was just as definitive that was shown multiple times. It was slightly higher, and it was facing Tim Ream, where it looked like you saw the ball kind of start down, and then it took a dip. So you saw I saw it enter into the shadow of the body, the silhouette, and it hits Tim. It goes through Tim Ream, and it looks like it changes direction, goes down at a steeper angle on the way behind. So that one was shown. But for Mr. Ostojic to initially go penalty, then it go to VAR. And if you were trying to find one particular angle that was a little higher and a little off to the side, it looks like maybe there was a touch, but it was shadowed a bit. It was off of his left hip and behind. And that was one of the views that was also there. So for Mr. Ostojic to go, okay, penalty, then it goes to VAR. In the elements that were shown, was it clear and obvious that it was not? And the semantics of the law, as it was displayed to me, obviously, and this was the point that Maddie was making, through the semantics of the law and the wording of the law, it has to be a clear and obvious error by the man in the middle to reverse it. And you couldn't find that. So I get it. I understand the call. I understand the PK call by Mr. Ostojic. I understand VAR offering angles. Ostojic sticking with his call because there was no clear and obvious play to reverse it, although I would maintain that the one that I saw would be clear and obvious because it was like literally from right behind the net. But it was only shown once, but it wasn't shown as a part of the VAR circle. That was not given in the VAR evidence. So in the context of what was shown and what was given, I understand why the PK was called. So that's, for me, okay, end of story. I get it. Fine. I still had that one play in the back of my mind, and I'm like, okay, well, why isn't this one brought forward? It never was. It was never offered into evidence. So you end up with the PK being what it was, and it was an opportunity for everything that was applied. So there you go. That would be the Ream. Yeah, and and it should be should be a clear and obvious error for him to have him go look. And it really wasn't. Like I said, except for that one angle that I saw that wasn't offered into evidence, and I don't know why. Evidence that was presented to state a case was more of a confirmation of Ostojic's call than anything else, at least to me. So, like I said, the one angle I had that I thought I had from behind Tim Ream that looked like it didn't touch anything wasn't offered into evidence. So evidence that was offered did not turn the call over or offer any evidence to have Mr. Ostojic sit there and change his mind. So legitimately, I'm like, well, why are we here? If you're not going to show that angle, put him on the clock. Give me 2.5 minutes. That's it. You can't find anything and have them scrubbing all the angles. then it's not there and move on. So anyway, that was just my walkthrough of the Tim Ream moment that was attached to all of this. And as I've said, I want to find out who those individuals are with the U.S. men's national team. You end up with the Onana goal. Okay, we over pursued. He was wide open. Shake it off. It's 2-1. Then you get the penalty, 3-1. All right, buck stops here. We're done. Let's flip this around. Who are those individuals to keep it going from basically 1-1 to 5-1? Who are those individuals that's going to stop? Who are going to be the crossing guards to sit there and go, bang, stop? That's what I want to know as a part of all of this process. So anyway, so Abe's questions, strengthen the goal scoring, and then obviously what it's going to look like. So I'm anticipating pretty much the same rollout, a couple of changes tomorrow. But obviously keep an eye out for Maddie and for Sophia, who are up at practice at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground. And obviously tonight when we're at the Brew House, where we'll break everything down for you from 7 to 9. So if you're in the neighborhood, come visit. So it's kind of like a postponing of soccer over there, or a blending of soccer over there and Atlanta soccer tonight today. Well, technically it would be tonight. So it's like a mixing of all of our ingredients into one spot. So a little soccer over there, Atlanta AST, 7 to 9 at the Brew House tonight. And then AST will be active tomorrow on Tuesday night, because remember, you've got all of your playoffs. We'll find out in the afternoon who teams 42, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are. 43, 4, 5, and 6. And then you'll have your intercontinental playoffs in Mexico to determine 47 and 48, and then we'll know everybody. So that's where we are. We got 6 spots left. That's tomorrow. And AST will be letting you know what's going on after the match. Obviously, we'll be gathering stuff in the mix zone after the match is done, and you'll be able to hear that on AST after the match at Mercedes-Benz. So Tuesday's big on a couple of different fronts. Field is full. The field is filled for the World Cup. AST, so it'll be SDH tomorrow morning. We'll go over the guests one more time in a bit. SDH AM in the morning. Match at night. Mixed zone and post-match materials for AST. AST is going to be super late. So that way Jason will know and will be able to tell us all who 47 and 48 are after 43, 4, 5, and 6 are determined in Europe tomorrow afternoon. So that's your rundown of tomorrow. Tomorrow, planned, scheduled, and otherwise thought of. 9:30, our buddy Ben Jacobs set to join us. I told Ben, because of everything going on, with everything going on, that he could be at 9:05 if he wanted. You can be at 9:30 if he wanted. 9 o'clock hour is wide open because we got stuff to talk about. So Ben can come on at any point because of especially with what's going on with Roberto De Zerbi. He can come on at 9:30, which is the scheduled time. If it's got to be earlier, fine. Casey White said to join us at 10. Marty Jellamy, the head coach of the Unified team, right there, Unified, right above the boss, that's set to join us at 10:30 to discuss this year's recruitment and all of the elements that are there when it comes to the Unified team kicking off. And they've got 4 matches this year, 2 home, 2 away. And I think they go to places they haven't been. I think they're going out to LAFC this year. And it'll be another frontier that they get to tackle. And we'll find out about what the last 12 months have been like for Marty and getting ready for the 2026 version of what is up with the Unified team. And so we'll catch up with Marty tomorrow. So it's Ben Jacobs scheduled now, number 1. And it's Casey White at 10 o'clock, Marty Jellamy at 10:30. That's tomorrow. Then once again, we're all heading down to Mercedes-Benz. And actually, I'm not that, as soon as the show is over, because I catch up with Keeler, the head coach of the women's U17s. Now that they have made it to the U17 World Cup on that particular roster, she's joining us in the afternoon. We're taping that. We're going to run that on Wednesday after Dylan Butler in the 10 o'clock hour. So that's so Keeler Crinion's going to join us and discuss U17s. That'll be on Wednesday. Wednesday is going to be Dylan and Coach Crinion, and then it's going to be Rob Valentino joining us once again Thursday morning leadoff. Rob now wearing the Stars and Stripes, and we get to find out what this tenure is like for him in his coaching career. And so Rob Valentino joining us batting leadoff on Thursday. Might come on at 9 o'clock, might come on 5 minutes early. So we'll see what that looks like. And then it's the Power Hour with Nino and Nico, and that is going to be 10 o'clock in hour number 2 on Thursday. Friday, once again, hopefully our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring. If Greg Garza is back from Mexico, perhaps we catch up with Greg, and then we'll catch up with our friends from Apple TV, getting you ready for the weekend. Did I send that email to Chris Doran? Did I send that email? No, I did not. When you know what your week is like, comma, let me know so you can come visit us at the morning show. So this is me filling out an email I thought that I'd filled out, but I did not. And so efforting Chris Doran, the play-by-play voice of Columbus Crew, as they come to town, and we'll see what is on Chris Doran's mind, and we will see what's going on there. We are also efforting our friend Jen Hildreth and find out what it's looking like for her, because she is kind of getting away from women's basketball now that they've determined their Final Four. She's drifting back into the NWSL. We'll see what her week is like, and we'll see if we can catch up with Jen live later in the week, as well as we're getting ready to premiere things on the weekend. So yes, very, very busy stuff. And we're also catching up with JC Carpenter from North Georgia United later today for a 1v1 that'll be on the network later, because JC went from North Georgia United to having a tryout in the second division in Spain. We're going to find out about that adventure. That's going to be a 1v1. That'll be up later today as well. Am I missing anything? I don't think so. Okay, so that's the week as we know it. High school action, maybe Thursday. Keep you posted. So that's kind of where we are right now with all the things. David, I do not know. I think it's going to be us and anybody else that wanders into Brewhouse. David was asking about the guest list tonight for SOT/AS. So I guess it's ASOT, Atlanta Soccer, over there tonight. ASOTT. So Atlanta Soccer over there tonight at the Brewhouse. I do not know the guest list, but I know that Maddie might be joining us for the first block, and then it'll be me and Jason and whomever else wants to wander by, those kinds of things. So we'll be there from 7 to 9 tonight, and we'll have ASOTT available to you. So that's going to be fun. All right. I got a handful of minutes left, and Chris Richards says his knee soreness has resolved and he will be available for the USMNT versus Portugal on Tuesday. I guess that is one of the answers that we had. And it is going to be there. So that's big stuff that is attached to Chris Richards. So technically, I guess what I should have done in catching that piece of news was do this. Chris Richards will be available for selection tomorrow against Portugal. All right. And trying to see if there's anything else that is available on the news. Okay. Another couple of things that are going around. Now, I don't know if you saw this on the weekend, because we were all looking at everything going on this particular side of the pond. Had 63,004 in Denver. The marker has been set for Team 17. When that comes online, Team 17 supporters, you know what this means, that you've got to be north of 63,000 for the first ever match for Team 17 in 2028. That's the new marker, 63,004, Denver and Washington Spirit. The CAF, the Confederation of African Football, the CAF General Secretary, Veron Mosengo Omba, has resigned following calls for his exit and the debacle over the CAF decision to strip Senegal of the AFCON title. And this is from our friends at World Football Daily, or Inside World Football. So in a statement, he said he was retiring from football to pursue, quote, more personal projects. Rumors are he'll run for the presidency of the Congolese FA after its president was sentenced to life imprisonment by a court earlier this month for embezzling more than €1 million in funds provided by FIFA earlier. Mosengo Omba was already on borrowed time at CAF at age 60. At age 66, he was past CAF's mandatory retirement age of 63. And he was parachuted into CAF in March of 21 and joined CAF immediately following the election of Patrice Motsepe as CAF president. And let's see, Infantino's favorite political enforcer wanted to rebuild CAF's desperate economic position, guiding Motsepe through the minefield of African nations who were becoming increasingly discontented, acknowledged his time, and leaves at a challenging time. CAF said competitions director Samson Adamu would take over as acting general secretary. So what happened is Senegal basically in Paris on the weekend paraded the AFCON trophy around and basically told CAF and Morocco to come and get it. It's like, y'all want it? Come and get it. And we're going to show it here in the building, and if you want it, you got to grab it. So it was an interesting position for CAF to be in, and it was intriguing. Stripping Senegal of the AFCON title, decision made by CAF's appeals board, but as a result, once again, heavy toll on the image of the African game. And so you have Senegal basically telling CAF to come and get the trophy. They have not. And so it was paraded around and in France, and it's still right now is in the possession of the Senegalese FA. And so because of all of this, they have asked, basically Senegal was like, you want it, come and get it, and they haven't come and gotten it yet. So the CAF General Secretary has resigned amidst all of the fallout there. Then other pieces of news. Once again, we do not have an update of updates on Roberto De Zerbi. We do have the targeting that is attached. It's like, excuse me, sir, we would like for you to be a part of things. So they are, as it was listed in boldface print, close to an agreement. They're close to an agreement to have De Zerbi sign a 5-year deal to be a part of Spurs and actually be there for the last 7 matches of this season. No word on if he can jet if they get relegated. But right now it's a 5-year deal, and they've given him a big financial package to be a part of the survival of Spurs in the Champions League. So short of the I love this. They're in talks. Depending on your source, they're in talks. They're in talks. Spurs pushing hard to persuade. Discussions taking today. And let's see. I love this. Former Tottenham boss Tim Sherwood, who has repeatedly put his name in the frame to take over, told Sky that De Zerbi is the perfect candidate, but only if he can keep Spurs in the Premier League. So basically, if De Zerbi signs and they get relegated, then he wasn't the perfect. It wasn't the perfect pick. If you take the personality of, if you take the statement of Tim Sherwood, he's the perfect pick if he can keep him up. And if he can't, then I don't know. I guess he wasn't. He wasn't. If he were to take over and they were to be relegated, then he wouldn't be the perfect pick in the eyes of Tim Sherwood. The logic that is attached there, obviously. Also on the board this morning, a court has dismissed Cardiff's £106 million claim against Nantes over the death of Emiliano Sala. Commercial court in France dismissed Cardiff City's claim for that compensation following Salah's death. From press agencies attached to The Guardian, commercial court had dismissed Cardiff's claim. Cardiff was seeking €122 million for the loss of income and other damages from Nantes. Rulings by FIFA, CAS, and the Swiss Supreme Court have gone against Cardiff in their legal dispute since Salah passed in January 2019. Signed for the club record fee, and then he was in a single-engine Piper Malibu, traveling from France to get to Cardiff, and it crashed into the sea near Guernsey, and the pilot also passed. Court ruled Nantes were not at fault in relation to the flight, and that Cardiff did not suffer reputational damages. It added that Nantes suffered moral damage and ordered Cardiff to pay €300,000. Cardiff estimated their losses at 122 million euro after an analysis conducted by an expert appointed by the club. Their contention was that not responsible because the flight was organized by an intermediary enlisted by the French club. Court found that McKay served as an agent for Nantes, but he did not organize the flight, was not aware of the illegality of the flight. And so Nantes right now struggling in the League One relegation zone. Welcome the decision. Got a quote from the club lawyer. In 2022, Cas ruled Salah's transfer had definitely been finalized at the time of his death. The following year, FIFA ordered Cardiff to pay Nantes the balance of the transfer fee, which amounted to just over 11 million euro out of a total of 17. So that is that came out this morning, a handful of hours ago. Trying to see if there's anything else that is up and running today. Like I said, we mentioned the 63,000 at Mile High. They are not playing every match at Mile High, meaning Denver Summit. They are playing they're playing some at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, while their stadium in Centennial, Colorado is being constructed. And right now, their first match at Centennial is plotted for June, it looks like. July 3rd. So the June break, July 3rd, is when the NWSL's Denver Summit would be moving into their new stadium in Centennial, Colorado. So it's going from Mile High to Dick's Sporting Goods Park to Centennial Stadium by the midpoint of the season. July 3rd is when the anticipated move is there for Denver Summit into their new building. What to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, gossip, rumor, and innuendo before we get out of here. And what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, brought to us by our friends at Fanatis. FNTZ.co/soccer down here. That link is important, helps them, helps us, and helps you. Adding more matches to everything you're already watching. With Fanatis, you get all the BNs. You get the home of AFCON, and you get CAF. You get CAF Champions League. You get the English League. You get the French League, the Turkish League, and the Polish League. You get all of Copa Libertadores and Sudamericana. You get attachments to CATV. You get attachments to Tigo Sports. You get a lot of the A and B divisions in South America. TEC from Argentina, more leagues from South America, all in one place. One subscription, one home. Fanatis, FNTZ.co/soccer down here. So what to watch today? I imagine it's going to be kind of a light day on the in-betweens. Germany and Ghana at 2:45 on FS1. Cyprus and Moldova for you sickos is noon on FS2. DAZN USA has friendlies that have already passed. Fox ONE has a couple of friendlies, one that just started, one at noon, and on the women's side in the Frauen Bundesliga, Hamburg and Bayer Leverkusen on DAZN. That is at 3 o'clock. So it's a pretty quick day. But once again, Fanatis, FNTZ.co/soccer down here. What to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. Soccer, and once again, the gossip, rumor, and innuendo part. And let's see, Denver and their appearances. Let's see, trying to see the transfer talk that is here this morning before we get out of here. Atletico de Madrid interested in a deal for Gabriel Jesus and Gabriel Martinelli because it's an all-Gabriel deal. According to Team Talk, squad players for Arsenal, reports stating the club at Team Talk, club wouldn't stand in their way if they wish to leave. Deals running until 27, though Martinelli does have a 12-month option in the contract that could see him stay at the Emirates until 2028. If De Zerbi somehow falls apart between now and whenever they are close to an agreement, if it falls apart, Redknapp, Sherwood, Glenn Hoddle, and Robbie Keane, because Sean Dyche is out. Liverpool wants one of several clubs keen on a move for Crystal Palace's Maxence Lacroix, according to Team Talk. Regular for the team in his appearances. Chelsea, Villa, Bayern Munich also interested. Crystal Palace are said to be aware of mounting interest with growing concern that he could be the next center back to leave after Guehi left to Manchester City in January. Barcelona keen on re-signing Joao Cancelo at the end of his loan, reporting Marca. Right now, he's in his second stint with the Blaugrana, rejoined after in January from Al Hilal. Barca intend on bringing the 31-year-old back, 1 year remaining on his deal in Saudi Arabia. Another loan is unlikely without a contract extension. Paying a transfer fee has been described as complicated. A team in that same league that we don't talk about, endorse, or promote offered Scott McTominay a huge salary in a bid to tempt him away from Napoli, but McTominay is expected to remain in Naples, according to Nicolo Schira, and he wants to extend his contract until 2030, which obviously would increase his salary. Mo Salah attracting interest from several MLS clubs when he leaves Liverpool on a free, competing with the Saudi Pro League teams that we've been mentioning. Football Insider is mentioning whom, other than any of the big dogs specifically. Expected to demand a significant wage packet at his next club. And let's see. So we know Real Madrid, we know PSG, and they obviously would be able to afford his wages. Then, okay, so Football Insider's basically saying, yes, clubs are interested, but not giving any kind of specific teams. We'd mentioned in the past in our discussion San Diego because of his relationship with Sir Mohamed Mansour, but we'll keep an eye. Spurs reluctant to let Dominic Solanke go in the summer would accept a deal worth £50 million for the striker, $15 million below the deal they secured from Bournemouth. Writing him off at a loss. Manchester United appreciate, in quotes, Bruno Guimaraes, having held a meeting with his agents in recent weeks about several players. No active negotiations for the Newcastle midfielder, according to Fabrizio Romano. Barcelona willing to offer a new one-year contract extension to Lewandowski amid links with a free transfer at the end of his deal this summer. There is discussion that that contract would have a lot of escalators in it for performance-based incentives. Keep an eye on that. That's from Sport. PSG, Bayern Munich, Galatasaray in the league we don't talk about. Interested in Bruno Fernandes. Manchester United wants him to stay. It's from Efrem Konur. Marcus Llorente, keen to stay at Atletico de Madrid. Deal expiring in 27 amid links to move to the Premier League. That's from Fabrizio Romano. Andy Robertson set to leave Liverpool this summer at the end of his contract. AC Milan, Spurs, Atletico de Madrid, Celtic, all eyeing a move. That's from Efrem Konur again. Everton are the front runners to sign Harry Wilson on a free this summer. Contract at Fulham coming to an end. Leeds are in the race. Roma, AC Milan, and Inter Milan all monitoring a switch for Venezia midfielder Issa Doumbia ahead of a battle with other Serie A clubs. That's from Nicolo Schira again. Guillermo Vicario is the top option for Inter Milan to bolster their shot-stopping ranks in the summer from Calcio Mercato. Nico Schlotterbeck close to renewing his contract with Dortmund amid links with a transfer to Liverpool and Real Madrid. Once again, that is from Nicolo Schira. Trying to see if I've missed anything else and if there's any other stories on the board before, once again, tonight, 7 to 9, we are at the Brew House. I think Maddie's going to be joining us virtually because she's working this morning, and we will see what's on her mind and what she got to partake in news-wise, and we'll see what it looks like, all of that. So there's the Senegal parading of the trophy. Talked about that. 51 signings for Spurs since Mauricio Pochettino was sacked. 51. And they were ranked, by the way, in the Telegraph. So we'll see. For anybody that wants to have those kinds of lists, I think we are good when it comes to rumors and names and notes and stuff. Malik Tillman and Tim Ream are next to speak to the media, according to our Maddie Cruz, who is there right now. Once again, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground for the USMNT availability. Chris Richards says he's been training individually all week and is available. So that's the big thing. So Maddie says that Chris Richards has been training individually, but the overarching thought is now that he says that he's available for the match tomorrow night. So Chris Richards probably locked in as one of your center backs. So Malik Tillman, Tim Ream, waiting to hear from them. Follow Maddie on the 280-character app at Madison Cruz and the number 7. So Madison Cruz 7 on the Twitters for all of the updates here this morning and this afternoon involving the USMNT. Let me say hi to everybody before we get out of here. So it is Morning Lokeville, Morning Four Card, Morning David, and let's see. I know Abby was in a lot this morning. Thank you, Abby. Good to see you. Let's see. Morning David. Morning Katie Weaver. Let's see. That's Abby. And I did see the pregame TNT promo. That was very, very nice. Nicely done. And getting the getting the mayor involved and all of the other elements that were attached to it. Very, very cool. All right, so let's see. Morning Wiley. Yeah, and let's see. So Wiley's in this morning. And let's see. So Abby and Morning Ricky. And yeah, river, I know. And when Abe said across the river, the other side of the river, that's kind of a big river. And Abby went to the sneak peek last night of the Clint Dempsey doc coming out on Parabros next month. And she says, have your tissues ready. I don't doubt that for a second. So good morning. After 5 days in Vegas, hopefully Ricky came out on top. So in 5 days in Vegas, Ricky is on top and he's back. And that's always a good thing. Okay. So once again, tonight, 7 to 9, Brew House. Come see us, be a part of everything. I think Maddie's going to be joining us off the top virtually, and we'll discuss anything and everything going on. And keep an eye out on her socials to find out what she's getting to discover as everybody gets ready for the USMNT and a stacked Portugal side. Held to a goalless draw by Mexico last time out. So opponents switch. And so now Belgium is going to go play Mexico, and Portugal comes up here. And that will be it tomorrow. But obviously, we'll have all the coverage today on all the socials. Brewhouse tonight, 7 o'clock. And then once again, back at it tomorrow morning at 9:05. Ben Jacobs set to join us in hour number 1. And Casey White set to join us in hour number 2, along with Marty Jelmy from Atlanta United's Unified Team. So that's another day, another go-round of SDH AM. Thanks for being a part of it, as you always are. And we'll be back at it again tonight. I say tonight. And so tonight, 7 o'clock, join us either virtually or in person. Have your dinner ready. Join us at the Brew House, and we will catch you up on anything and everything from today, from the weekend, all the things. Me, Jason, Maddie, and everybody else who's there who wants to hoot and holler. We'll all be in one place. There you go. Brew House tonight, 7 o'clock here on the network live as we get you ready for the U.S. and Portugal coming up tomorrow night from downtown Atlanta. That's Reaction Monday. Thanks for hanging out with us, as you always do. For all of us here at SDH, to all of you out there, mucha platiel, play it safe. And since it is the end of the show, it means I get to do this. See you tonight, 7 o'clock from the Brew House.